The most vicious offense Sasebo, Japan has ever seen was committed by a prepubescent girl in her elementary school classroom. She now walks the streets a free woman. In what is known as the Sasebo slaying, young Satomi Mitarai lost her life at the hands of her one-time friend and a box cutter. On June 1st, 2004, Girl A, as she was originally called, awoke for the day as if it were any other. She dressed and ate breakfast, said goodbye to her mother, and headed out the door for school. All the while planning a horrific act with the retractable blade she had swiped from her father's toolbox. The two girls had been friends. They passed notes in school and played on the playground together. They even played basketball together often. What none of the adults knew was that there had been a change in the relationship. When Girl A arrived at Okubu Elementary School in Sasebo, a small city in Nagasaki, she waited for the lunch hour and then lured Satomi Mitarai into an empty classroom and asked her to sit in a chair. It was then that she slid behind her and used the sharp instrument in her hand to impale her classmate's neck and arms. As Satomi slipped to the floor and the life drained out of her, Girl A simply watched for some 15 minutes. She later told police that she kicked her fellow pupil in the stomach and head while she lay on the floor to make sure she was no longer living. A gruesome act no one expected from such a young girl, but more surprises lay in store. Once she returned to her classroom, covered in blood and still holding her blade, her teacher was stunned. "This is not my blood," was Girl A's only response. She simply stood there with a calm look on her preteen face. The teacher noticed both students had disappeared at lunchtime and went to search for the still missing girl. She found Satomi laying on her stomach in the unused classroom and called the police. They took Girl A into custody without a struggle. Behind bars, Girl A had nothing to say except, "I'm sorry, I've done a bad thing." She refused to eat or drink for many hours, and for the most part, was emotionless. Eventually, she gave her motive for her fateful deed. She felt insulted by Satomi. Elementary school friendships are well known for being fickle. This one was no different. While the girls could have been considered besties, the friendship had taken a downward turn after an internet argument. Girl A claimed Satomi had called her fat and a goody-goody in an online public forum. These can be considered highly disrespectful insults in Japanese school life. The kicker? She refused to apologize. As detectives looked into this unbelievable situation, they discovered Girl A had been leading a troubled life filled with horror stories, distasteful anime, and creepy pasts. Bookmarked on her computer was a dark video called The Red Room, a popular Japanese urban legend. According to the story, unlucky internet surfers may find a mysterious red box popping up on their screen that asks,
"Do you like?"
in a scary childlike voice. The box never goes away, no matter what the user does. Eventually, the screen changes to a list of the millions of previous users who fell prey to the Red Room. The current user expires in some savage way that sprays the room red with their demise. Authorities also found other troubling interests. Girl A was infatuated with Uro-Goru, an art genre featuring shocking and gross imagery, too mature for elementary school children. She was obsessed with Battle Royale, a book and movie that depicts a fierce fight to the end of a classroom of children, similar to the Hunger Games story. She was a super fan of the book One Missed Call. The novel details the story of a girl who receives a voice message from 2 days into the future, her own voice screaming hysterically. The girl soon loses her life, and her friend is left to find a way to avoid the same fate. Another point of worry was Girl A's social media posts and personal website. They were filled with Battle Royale fan fiction she had written and her own drawings of morbid scenes of fighting and evil deeds. It was determined, partly because of her strange fascinations and social difficulties, that Girl A was living with Asperger's syndrome, a mental condition characterized by social anxiety. She was also thought to have hikikomori syndrome, a severe social withdrawal problem in Japan that primarily affects younger people. Internet addiction is often associated with this syndrome, as these afflicted young people spend weeks, months, or even years locked away in their bedrooms, refusing to leave. None of these interests, while odd, point to any illegal activity or mental illness. Many people suffer from social anxiety and have dark interests without resorting to the horrific events that Girl A did, according to Harvard University studies. But what was discovered next points to a different side of Girl A's personality. Another disturbing fact that came to light was that Girl A had already been in trouble in school for punching and kicking other students at a previous incident only a month before the tragic incident involving Satomi. Hundreds of people attended Satomi's funeral, including Girl A's father. According to some sources, he is said to have cried profusely and apologized for what his daughter had done. Afterward, he allegedly returned home to take his own life. Whether this is true or just another dramatized piece of the puzzle is still unclear. On September 15, 2004, Girl A was institutionalized for 2 years. Her young age didn't buy her any mercy with the court. Japan had lowered the age of punishment for juveniles from 16 to 14 just a few years before this event in response to a 1997 case where a boy in his early teens confessed his guilt in the demise of 2 children in elementary school. What Girl A did sparked demands to lower the age of prosecution even further to the age of 11. This case also brought new demands for internet censorship for juveniles, not only because of the strange and dark interests she had, but also for how the infamous meme the public soon developed shot her to stardom for her horrifying actions. In 2006, she was given a mental evaluation and sentenced to 2 more years of involuntary incarceration in a reformatory by the Japanese family court system. The moment her case was reported in the media, the Japanese public was mesmerized, and Girl A was soon something of a local celebrity. She developed her own fan base and was dubbed Nevada Tan, in reference to the University of Nevada sweatshirt she wore in her class photos. The word tan is a childlike way to pronounce Chan, a popular Japanese surname. The university had to temporarily suspend sales of the sweatshirt in the aftermath of the tragedy. Even high-ranking government officials were caught up in the craziness of this case. Kiichi Inoue, a member of the Japanese National Legislature, was publicly criticized when he called Nevada Tan Genki, a word meaning lively and vigorous in a supportive way. Sadakazu Tanigaki, Minister of Finance, was called out when he described Nevada Tan's box cutter method as manly. An internet meme was created, songs were sung about her, and a band even named themselves after her. Suddenly, she was world famous. Japanese law strictly prohibits the release of juvenile criminal information. The name Girl A was meant to hide her real identity. But her fan base was relentless, and soon her real name was discovered when pictures she had drawn were shown on Fuji television with her signature still visible. Girl A, Nevada Tan, is Natsumi Tuji. Despite being locked up, Natsumi still received a graduation diploma from her elementary school, just as Satomi did. It is required in Japan to move on to junior high. Officials felt it was needed for her to melt back into society undetected when she was released. The yearbook contained an empty page where students could place photos of Satomi and Natsumi, provided by the administration office. Authorities announced on May 29, 2008, that her sentence was complete, and she was free to go home to her family. She is now, as of 2021, a 28-year-old woman living a new life with a new name. Do you think Natsumi should have spent more time in jail? How do you feel about the meme? Is it exploiting a terrible situation, or just harmless internet fun? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. For more terrible tales and scary stories, check out some of our other videos.